Okay, so welcome to the CMS breakout. Everybody's starting, so I will. No, it's okay. I was going to say, why don't you guys take the mic and introduce yourselves? And this is supposed to be a showdown, so tell us why you're so great.
Well, are we just introducing ourselves first, or just go start?
Yeah, who you are and
okay.
what your platform.
Okay. My name is David Sutton, and I'm a regional sales manager with townnews.com. We're based out of Davenport, Iowa. We're part of Lee Enterprises. We have our content management system is called Blocks, and we have about a little over 1,700 news organizations on the platform, and so we have a lot of great feedback and with across that many customers to hear what they works with them. In fact, the best, as we know, the best ideas come from customers, and our customers are no different. They know what works day in, day out with their workflows and so forth. So that's who I am.
My name is Joe Hyde. I'm from San Angelo, Texas. I run San Angelo Live, which is a local news site. I do it on Drupal, but before I ran San Angelo Live, I was a Drupal developer and led the development of a lot of projects around the country, including San Diego Gas and Electric and Funimation and I don't know, the Cooperative American Physicians, a lot of national brands and things like that on Drupal. I've been involved with the Drupal community since about 2006. And I don't know, they always talk about your Drupal.org user number. I got a 5-digit one, so that's like really good. The advantages, I mean, I don't have anything to sell to you, and I'm not taking it back from a vendor or anything, but Drupal is it's a more advanced system, I think, from WordPress. No offense to WordPress people, but WordPress is also very versatile. If you look at what's happening this year with the presidential election, a lot of the campaign websites weren't on Drupal or anything, they're on WordPress, and it's because there's a whole lot of development around there. Drupal is more high-end enterprise things. There's some advantages to using Drupal. There's a couple distributions out there that are pointed toward high-end news curation. And I know a little bit about it. I'm not like deep into it like I used to be. My site, San Angelo Live, is on Drupal 7, and we probably use just about every trick in my bag of tricks to make it work and work with SEO and things like that. So I can talk toward that, and there's some good crossover things between Drupal and WordPress. For example, Yoast. Are you familiar with Yoast? Yoast is an SEO. The guy's like from Finland or something. But anyway, so there's some things we can talk about that depends on what your pain points are for creating your news. Here you go.
David Walsh. My company is called Walsh Creative. We're a WordPress development house. That's all we do is WordPress, live and breathe WordPress. Anyone that's not on WordPress, we try to get them on it. So that's what I push. I would say about Drupal is I don't have any particular problems with Drupal. I know like version upgrades can be hard, but Drupal is, like Joe was saying, if you are a developer and you understand it, or if you're on a top enterprise level and you have developers on staff that specialize in Drupal, then you can do a lot with it. But your average Joe that just wants to run a website and wants it to be simple is probably going to have a lot more ease of use with WordPress. And Yoast, we'll talk about Yoast because that's a great plugin that everyone should be using, and every time you write content you should be living for a green light.
Two green lights now. I'm Steve Ludwig. My company's Bigger Media. We publish about 14 hyperlocal sites, news and sports and lifestyle, and all of them are on WordPress. We use WordPress sort of at a just a philosophical decision in our company, because we want to avoid making large investments in technology that could become legacy really fast. And we view web dev as an area where things can become legacy really, really fast. And, at the height of when cell phones were the fastest that phones were generationing was about 6 months a couple years ago. It's actually started to lengthen back out. We're happy about that because it means, the things that you're dealing with WordPress from a business standpoint is if you do not have, it's getting to the point now, even if you're just running one site, if you do not have somebody like Dave or somebody that is either on staff or on call, the speed, the generationing that WordPress is coming out now with updates, and in many cases very significant updates that tend to break everything that you've done already. It can be really troublesome, but overall we still feel it's better than the time and effort and cost it would take to be developing something on an unopened platform.
Yes, I did. Sorry.
Up there.
Hi. Hi there. I'm Travis Smith, and I'm representing Expression Engine. Sorry for the late arrival. I've been building sites with Expression Engine for 11 years now. I think it started as a blogging tool around the time that Blogger and before Movable Type showed up, and it's evolved into a really solid content management system that's it's in its third major generation, third major revision right now. It's like 3.43 is the latest one. And the reason that we have stuck with it for so long, and there's a lot of reasons, but I would say our primary differentiators with Expression Engine are its security. It has had far fewer security holes than other projects that I've been involved with. It's baked into the DNA of the developers, and they even do things that I find very frustrating sometimes as a user of the system, because there are things about it that slow me down because of the way they've implemented security. But on the other hand, I've had so few hacks in Expression Engine, and I have rarely had to update a site in a panic because there's been some like 0-day exploit that's come out for it. And the other reason that we like it is that it has a more flexible data model than some of the other content management tools that news sites use. WordPress and Drupal and Joomla are based pretty clearly around data models that start as headline, article body, summary, author, that sort of basic blog or article level thing, which does work for news sites when they start off, and it's very easy to build templates for. But often my clients will come and have a desire to add something like a recipe database or an event listings, or they want to track politicians and their votes, and they want to be able to enter that data in an efficient way. And Expression Engine lets you build sort of these data bits in ways that the staff can enter them easily, and you can display them in really useful ways quickly. So I think those are kind of the main strengths of it. I mean, there's other strengths too, and weaknesses, but those are the ones that stand out. So.
I have a conversational approach for you guys, because I know you're all here to brag about the CMS that you and use. What's the part of it that you hate? What sucks? What needs fixing? And you just touched on that a little bit.
Sorry. The question is, what do we find frustrating or hate about it? What's
of the platform you're here to brag about? What do you find?
Yeah.
I'm a mean journalist. That's what I do.
There's two limitations that we bump into sometimes. One is for multilingual. It's not great at doing multilingual, and there's add-ons, but it's always, it's complicated no matter what system it is, but some systems are built multilingual at the core, and Expression Engine isn't. And the other that I find would be really nice, and I've been pushing for a super long time, is a better model of having administrators or site members in multiple groups. Like right now, you can be a super admin, or you can be like a regular admin or a member on probation or a forum moderator, or like you can be in one member group, but you can't be in multiple member groups. So if you wanted to have a forum moderator who also edited your calendar listings but nothing else, you can't really do that. You can make them one or the other, or they'd have to have 2 accounts or that sort of thing. And I think that would be, it's not simple, but that would be a great addition to its complexity and its usefulness for people who are doing it for more than just 1 or 2 staff people. So.
So one of the things I hate about WordPress is, and very loud wind. So one of the things I don't like about WordPress is that one of the positives is there's over 40,000 plugins in the WordPress repository. I almost wish WordPress would limit the amount of plugins people could install, because a lot of times, especially with publishers, it's so easy to install a plugin to make the site do some new feature that you thought of and you want to do, and a lot of times you can get plugins for free or really cheap, and you don't have a developer that's advising, so you just keep adding plugins, and then you get to a point where you have 80 plugins and 60 of them are outdated and they're causing other ones to not work. So I almost wish they would just say, like, you can't have more than 15, and that's it. And if you're on a good hosting provider that's actively managed, like a WP Engine, they will actively manage that and tell you have too many. But that's the other thing that's bad about it, is you can put your site on like a $2 a month plan that is horrible, and you wonder why your site is slow and crashing or getting some kind of injection. And it's because of these very basic problems, but because it's so easy or cheap, they can grow into much bigger problems than they ever need to be.
Well, I want to dispel a couple things about Drupal. First of all, our user enroll system is completely extendable. So I can create a role of, let's say, movie critic, okay, and they can only edit movies. And I can create another one of event curator, okay, and they can only put in events. And I can assign anyone to both of those roles. You can give people multiple roles at once. So it's very open, extensible. As far as the data model in Drupal, it's very complex, but in the same time, it's, from a high level, you can do anything with it. If you look at sangellive.com, I got event listings, I got news stories, and there's not really, I never took the standard article node type that they give in there. It's all custom, and you can create it with a WYSIWYG back end. So it's, in those senses, very simple. One of the things that's happening with CMS that you need to really think about into the future, and this is what your competition is going to be doing, particularly with the major news sites as they get more money and grow their revenues, is decoupling their website infrastructure. Okay, when I mean like a decoupled platform, what I'm talking about is, right now I have a website and it has a database and has a bunch of articles in it, a bunch of pointers to where the picture URLs are and things like that, and it takes all that stuff in. When I request an article, it takes all those little assets, those things that are attached to the article, and it places them in the page where I instructed the CMS, program the CMS to do, and it spits out a whole bunch of HTML. Well, now what we're looking at is we have mobile apps, we have Facebook pages, we have Apple News, we have just simple social sharing, we have things that bring in your content without necessarily bringing in your HTML. So the decoupling of the content from the structure is what is happening. That's the trend of the future. Let me give you a case study of how it works. If you have a decoupled platform, what you can do is, from that same platform, I can feed my mobile app with content. So I can create a mobile app that brings in the news article, and I may not want to put an ad in the stream, stream ads every 5 paragraphs. I may just want to, have a straight up paragraph. So I have this data object called JSON array usually, and it comes into my mobile app, and then it's going to have fields. It's going to have a body field, it's going to have an author field, it's going to have a title field. It might have a field with an array of pictures in it. Okay, and all that's going to feed information to your mobile app, for example. I'm just giving you that as an example. But the decoupling is what the new trend is. Decoupling content from structure, and that's what an advanced CMS needs to start doing. And I'm sure WordPress is on the road to decoupling too, because it's not just creating a web page anymore. And it might be that you're creating a mobile. For example, you can create a mobile version of your site using PhoneGap. Right? And I can use that, and I can use some JavaScript widgets. For example, I can use Drupal.js, and I can pull in my information from JSON arrays and build the content for my PhoneGap mobile app. And that can be an HTML5 web rendering of my site, or it can be an app itself. I can compile it as an app. Anyway.
Is that a negative for Drupal?
Yeah.
Sorry.
No.
What is the negative for Drupal?
The biggest negative for Drupal.
Talking to Mike.
I'm sorry. The biggest negative for Drupal is no, the versioning. I think everyone has problems with versioning because. But what's happening? I would just tell you on that. What's happening on the versioning for Drupal? What seems to be is going on is we just upgraded everything to Drupal 8, or they just upgraded. I didn't do it, but Drupal 8 is a major rewrite of Drupal, and it went from pretty much. They upgraded the style of coding to what they call object-oriented. So everything's in an object. It uses Composer. There's a lot of advanced stuff. So, you got to understand some of the major, or have someone that understands some of the major development pieces that go into Drupal. But going to the object-oriented format makes it difficult to do. I mean, there's a learning curve. There's a steep learning curve. But once you get on the learning curve, you can do anything. Right? You don't have to. I see requests in the Lion's Den all the time. How do I do an events calendar? That kind of stuff. Drupal, you can just do it. So, anyway, here you go.
I think one of the things that annoys myself and several on our team are that our reputation in terms of we've been around for 27 years now, and our CMS called Blocks has been around in some form or fashion for the last 10 years, keeps growing and so forth. But we still find some people look at Town News and they say, oh, they just work with smaller organizations, and then the larger organizations like the St. Louis Post-Dispatch, who we work with, and I look at our average customer. Honestly, our sweet spot is news organizations with probably, 15 to 20 staff total, maybe someone on the side managing some things. But the thing with our CMS is that, and it's a little bit different than obviously the others at the table here, just because it's proprietary software. We developed it, we built it, and the philosophy is that we want you to focus on content and in revenue, and not have to worry about infrastructure. That was a quiet one. We do, as I mentioned earlier, we have a lot of customers. We do a little over 1 billion page views a month. Spread out all of those customers, like I say, our average customer usually has. It's not like they have staff hanging around waiting to do something. So, we become the infrastructure. We have 2 hosting services out of Chicago and New York. We invest. I mean, we're profitable. We're debt free. Been around forever. And so, for the having the infrastructure for us to be managed that. And you focus on revenue and content is a nice division of work. So I was going to say they're on management system. Nope, don't know where I was going with that. So it's.
Okay, so if it's okay, can we go to questions?
Sure.
I know Mark had a question, right?
Yeah.
Go.
ever been a problem.
WordPress question.
So now that we know that that's not the problem, it tells me that, well, you've been around, you've been posting daily since 2009, you've got too much stuff. And the weight of your archives is dragging down your site. And I don't know how to respond to that. I mean, the answer for the ISP is that I move to a higher level of hosting. But my site isn't going to monetize its my form of civic engagement at the moment. Is there a CMS? Is there a system that has dealt with this problem and makes both the plugin and the heavy archive sort of not a problem?
Can you repeat that question?
There's a,
Big question.
yeah, I'll repeat a question. He has a WordPress site, I assume?
It is WordPress.
WordPress, and it's got 20,000 articles?
Sure.
Okay, 20,000, lots of articles. And he's on a shared hosting platform?
Yeah.
Okay, and the site seems to be slow to you?
It has been recently optimized.
Okay.
Pretty now.
On the hosting side, you can try to take. I mean, what kind of traffic do you get? Sessions per month. Do you know?
It varies widely.
500,000, 200,000.
For a lover. Just 40,000, something like that.
Okay, so 40,000 sessions per month. So you can increase your budget and probably
Unique. Sorry. Go ahead.
40,000 uniques, which means probably about 100,000 sessions per month. So you can increase your budget and increase memory to your MySQL, because this probably has a MySQL in the background. I'm just assuming this is Linux shared server. You can you can set up another virtual site and just for your MySQL and try to tie it. That way you have two virtual sites. One's running just your database, one's running the web server. Or you can import everything into a thing called, you look into, I'm not totally up on this, but there's some CMSs that create flat files of your entire site, like Jekyll, Google Jekyll, okay? It's a blogging platform. It's very simple, but I believe what it does is it'll take in the information and then make flat file files and the entire menu structure for you. So every time you create an article, you're going to have to regenerate the whole site. But it's flat files, and every hit is not going to be a database call. So.
Sorry, I didn't mean to be about me. I figured it was a systemic thing. I figured anyone who WordPress site is
Yeah, so
upgrade to Drupal.
he meant downgrade. So it is a systemic problem, but there's a deeper root than just what is the fix for it. So the deeper root is generally that goes back to what I was saying earlier, is you're running too many plugins. You're not running a lot of plugins. You're also, yeah.
Are you using GoDaddy?
No.
No, you're using something like it? Bluehost?
Yeah. So
Yeah, that's your problem. Switch from Bluehost. Yeah, I mean, that's your problem.
That's-
It's a statement of you get what you pay for. I don't know how you're.
And how much is that?
Like $7 a month.
Right.
so
Okay, you're paying
the host.
well, if you're paying
Yeah.
40, then you've got some better options, probably. Right? So there's been stuff about caching. Like, so if you got 15 plugins, not every plugin like does this. Like there are some plugins that are ginormous and some that do like one row to make specific things. So it's really like think about like what are they? And I mean WordPress or Drupal or any of these we can scale up quite large, right? So it has to do with the resources more than anything, right? And I mean like what you're running on. And I mean, budget hosting, like if you're up to like a site that's up in like that size, then you sort of need to pay for like probably slightly better like infrastructure to
Sell more advertising.
somewhere advertising.
So that is the issue, is your hosting plan. Your problems, I always ask about the plugins first, but your problems would be resolved if you left your like $3.95 a month Bluehost shared plan and went to, even a shared plan but on like WP Engine would be better than even like the VPS systems that Bluehost offers. So that would help. There's other things you could do like compress images, minify the CSS. You could use a content delivery network, a CDN that'll help you be able to serve faster. Yeah. Well, in this building too, you can't use go to sites with like an SSL or an HTTPS. You can't go to YouTube either. So, but a lot of those issues can be resolved by just taking a different look at your infrastructure and having someone look at it that knows what they're looking at and making those suggestions. Because I probably have like 5 emails in my phone right now that are dealing with the exact same problem that you're dealing with.
I'll also add that the content management systems here, the core of those systems, they're built in a way that scales really, really well to exponential levels. All of these at this point. But the people who write plugins don't necessarily have the same level of thought that goes into their plugins. And the other thing that's kind of a little bit weird about websites is that the degradation of service doesn't always happen. Like each article you add doesn't necessarily make your site one little tiny bit slower. You kind of end up with a site that can handle traffic to a certain point. And then for whatever reason, either because you've hit too many articles or there's too many hits or there's too many images on one page or there's something that'll push you over a tipping point, and then we call it falling off a cliff. And then at that point, the server starts to back up, and then it's like a gridlock traffic. So it may not be particular to one content management system, but it is like that sort of straw that broke the camel's back, and you have to kind of figure out where that bottleneck's happening.
We had a personal experience with this a couple of months ago. We took the oldest website in our whole setup. It's how many, 50,000 articles or something like that, and we converted it from a proprietary platform not represented at this table and into our standard WordPress setup. And all the other sites don't have these performance issues. All of a sudden, this one, after we converted it, started having really slow load times. And what we realized is that it was kind of a combination of just a ton of content that site's trying to move around and do things with. And ultimately, we had to give it just a whole lot more server power. It's on a dedicated server that, and we've been able to get it back down to an acceptable level. But just sort of from prior experience, one of the, and we believe very firmly in we like the ability with the WordPress to sometimes use off-the-shelf solutions to things. Sometimes you get somebody like Dave to make you something. We got out of the habit of using free ones, and we made a dead set rule against, we don't use a plugin that isn't supported. If there's not somebody you can talk to about the plugin, we don't use it, period. Because those things will be the ones that bite you in the ass really bad and at the perfectly wrong time, because WordPress X.01.X.X will come out, and all of a sudden that thing stops working, and you have no idea why, and you have nobody to talk to about why it's not. And our bad experience with that was a calendar plugin that literally necessitated completely redoing all of our calendars from scratch. So we just have some pretty simple guidelines about what we will and won't use, and we have learned the hard way that I would rather pay a few $100s or even a few $1,000s, depending on what it is, to have somebody like Dave do that. Dave hasn't done anything for us, but somebody like Dave does that for us right now. Dave might be doing that for us here very shortly, but because it's better to spend, we just did this with high school sports scores. It's better to spend $400 to make sure that it's going to work right, and that the person who wrote it you have access to, and you can ask questions, because the next major WordPress update that comes, if all of a sudden our scoreboards don't work, we have to have somebody, that, because it's probably a 5-minute fix, but if there's nobody who knows what it is, they can't go in there and fix it. So the key thing, I think your WordPress is fine as long as you have somebody either on staff or on call to you who can address those kind of things when they come up inevitably.
Can I ask a question about that? You said you might be, this one website that you moved over needed a whole lot more server power. So the question is that a lot more money as well? And how much?
What did we end up spending? I think we're spending an extra $100 a month, something like that. But when it's your business, and I mean that site has tens of thousands of dollars in advertising tied to it every month.
Just curious about that.
Yeah, it was nominal in the grand scheme of things. $100 to upgrade the server was nothing in the grand scheme of things. But the situation you're describing is, I think, is probably not hundreds of dollars. If it's tens of dollars, I'd be surprised, really, to give it enough.
Well, I'm gonna answer what he was saying about that little steady uphill time, and all of a sudden you're off the cliff. The reason I asked about GoDaddy is we went through a real long thing with GoDaddy. Their service was good, wasn't bad, but we kept hitting their plateau, and every time we upgraded, to the point where we actually just said, we jumped off a big cliff and hooked up our own server. We bought the box, we did everything we had to do. We hire somebody proper to come in, because if I spend, $85 an hour for this guy comes in and I'm up and running all the time and I'm secure, because right now the attacks on WordPress specifically, I'm sure you know, are getting pretty detrimental from foreign countries. I mean, I've been getting hit with denial of service attacks all the time, and if I didn't pay this guy $85 an hour, I wouldn't be up and running right now. But the steady uphill climb, the way we see it now with the database issue, and you mentioned something that we have to do now, which is actually split the database up almost and have a second virtual server, because we run on VMware and some other things. And as we all grow, my site's been around since 1999, and there's 5 years that are not on that database, but the rest of it are all on that one little database that's getting incredibly hard for the server to carry. So you brought up something real important, that as everybody grows here, these problems will get exponentially bigger, and plugins are killer if you don't pay attention to them. And if they're not updated, people aren't updating the plugin, you're waiting for security problems. And I've been through a lot of them myself, and I guess I wish I had more time so I could do it myself, but now I have to start hiring people to do it for me.
You bring up some very important points about servers, and I read these things in Lion's Den, and I'm like, well, my goodness, how do you do that with such a $795 server account? But I'll give you my evolution on servers on San Angelo Live. We went from when we first started, we were probably getting 3,000, 4,000 unique visitors per month, but we rapidly grew in about 6 months. To right now, our session count is anywhere from 500 to 600,000 per month. Okay, so we had a very rapid climb. The way we did it was there's really, in my mind, there's two major players in the cloud space. So we used a cloud server on Rackspace. I'm from Texas, so I have to use a Texas company, right? Okay, Rackspace is one. Amazon Web Services, AWS, is the other. You can get iterations of that. I believe there's a company called Pantheon that puts services or managed services on top of Rackspace. There's Acquia, which is a Drupal company, but they put services on top of AWS. So that's the universe I saw. We started with a $100 per month cloud instance on Rackspace, and that quickly became a $300 cloud instance. So we just kept increasing the workers, or whatever the heck you do. And then we split. We made two clouds. We made one for they have a database product, the Amazon Cloud does. So we put it on, we made a database cloud instance, and we used that as our database. Kept the web server on the same size. At the same time, on top of this same cloud instance, we were running Memcache, okay, which is it's an optimization layer for MySQL, and it caches I guess queries for your database, so you're not always touching the MySQL database. And we use Memcache primarily from the top level. It's primarily for people who are logged into our website. It gives them speed. And then for the people who aren't logged into our website, we used a system called Varnish. And Varnish is an open source caching system. It actually became famous during the 2010 Al Jazeera. Remember the Arab Spring and Egypt and all what was the Tahrir Square, all that was going on. Well, there was a company in Austin called Four Kitchens, and the tech guy, there's a good friend of mine, he was in charge of keeping the Al Jazeera website up during the Arab Spring. And he said all I was doing was just, I had my Unix command line open and I was just hitting reboot because the thing just kept crashing. But in the middle of all that, they came out with a system. Little history. Man, I'm boring y'all with this history, but it was Drupal 6 press flow distribution, and it allowed Varnish to work with Drupal, and that's what kept Al Jazeera up during the Arab Spring. Once he got all that thing installed and had the Varnish correctly configured, well, they shared their Varnish config file with everyone in the world, so now anyone can set up Varnish for Drupal, and you can also use Varnish for WordPress. In fact, if you're not using Varnish, I don't think you need to use Varnish if you get over 100,000 uniques a month. The way it works is, it's like Star Trek, okay? It's like Starship Enterprise. You know how Scotty would put the shields up, okay? So without the shields, the visitor makes a request to your website. It goes to your web server. Your web server goes through all these gears to talk to MySQL and through PHP, and it spits out the web page, okay? So every time someone visits your website, it's using up all those resources, the memory and everything else to run all those systems. Well, with Varnish, what it does, let's say a user 1 comes in and requests your home page, and it goes through all those gears and wheels and comes back out, and it stores it in memory, kind of around the website. So the next person that comes, he goes, I just gave that page to user 1. Here, user 2, take it out of memory. So it stores the information in RAM. So it makes your site extremely fast if you have it set up right. So
these are all good tips that are sort of general CMS ones, but are there
yeah.
to one CMS that is over there?
My news site is on WordPress and it's all version-wise up to date and everything, but I also manage another site for another organization that's on Drupal 6 at the moment. It's a very old website, it's thousands of pages now, and they're talking about moving to WordPress, and I'm wondering if there are good migration tools that can handle the Drupal site is full of custom content types and thousands of nodes of all different weird kinds, and is there a good migration tool to go from Drupal to WordPress in a situation?
To get it out of Drupal, you're probably gonna have to create a custom PHP script that combines those custom the content stuff that's coming out into whatever WordPress wants. So if WordPress wants a title, a body, and a picture, then you're gonna have to figure out how to take all those 15 fields that are made in Drupal and combine them into that from PHP. So you'd probably just dump it into a CSV or into a temporary database. So that's how I would do it. Go ahead.
I just have a question. If you had to say, like on average, how much time do you spend on just the technical infrastructure and maintaining and eyes watching it, round the clock kind of thing? I mean, I'm assuming, and the answer I'm sure is more than what you want to, as little as possible. Sure. And that's the challenge, and I know that's the challenge with all the different CMSs is what can you have that is built that it's easy, it's straightforward. If someone's on vacation that day or sick, someone else can do this, and it gets published when it needs to be, and all those kind of things. But I'm always interested in hearing, how much time is really the process taking, and what kind of energy, and how much money in terms of just and I'm familiar with other CMS systems, and all of them have pros and cons with them, and as well as ours certainly too. But that's a flag that we look at very closely all the time, is how much time is involved with the news organization in terms of maintaining or involved with maintaining and looking at keeping the site going. Yeah.
So do you take away that kind of tech how much is that? I mean, so is that just a more expensive product because you're doing more of that?
Actually, because we have so many customers, we can streamline a lot of the processes with this too. And so I tell you, look, our weekly newspaper rate in terms of it might have, we've got different programs, but they would be more like, okay, maybe there's a one-time $400 or $500 setup, and then the monthly might be $175, and that includes all the CMS, all the training that's involved. When we come out with upgrades, some of them smaller, some of them, weekly, easily. We have teams that's what they do, is just stand around. And just because we have so many customers and we have a strong reach in terms of, and the infrastructure that costs money and all that too, we know, because most of us came from small newspaper organizations or weeklies or startups. I had a startup. And so we know, every dime is important. But,
Does the price go up as the traffic goes up?
No.
Sorry,
No.
what was the report that you mentioned?
Like 175.
And is
that-
that hosting as well?
That's per month. Per month, yeah.
With
And
hosting as well?
hosting as well. Like I said, we have the infrastructures in the two cities.
So it's the services and software.
Yes.
You're selling
Yes.
CMS.
Exactly.
Our news platform is a software.
That's right. That's exactly right. So, yeah.
So a while back, they had this platform called Armstrong, text and tribute interface that is then got money from the Knight Foundation and made Armstrong. And the idea was that you would take this and you build the CMS out of it, and they didn't host it, they didn't have support, and so the rest was on for that cost. And they said, well, you spent like $15,000 building your CMS. Crazy, right? So you've given us a price structure. We also go down and find out for someone wanting to set up the site, like what
And again,
you expect an initial outlay to be, and then a monthly.
and I know it gets a little tricky when you're trying to do apples to apples with the two, but software as a service, turnkey product, but then we have other modules that can be added to it. But it really is built for you're traveling, you access it easy enough. You do remote reporting. We have everything is built on responsive design automatically. That's all part of it too. So everything shows up on mobiles and all that too. So
I don't have an offering. Drupal's free.
but it's actually not free. It's actually not free because of the time. Look at the time that we're talking about, the investment of time and plugins and all that goes with it. Just say nothing's free.
How many of y'all know HTML? Just basic HTML. Does everyone know? So you don't? So I'm like, in my opinion, I'm getting to the point even with WYSIWYGs, that's the editor that's in WordPress. I've looked at WordPress WYSIWYGs, I've looked at Drupal WYSIWYGs. I think people need to know how to do basic HTML. I think that ought to be part of being a reporter. That's starting to become yes, it is. Yes, it gives you so much flexibility in how you tell your story if you understand just the basic tags. I mean, there's 5 tags you got to know. That's it, like tables, for example. Anyway, but Drupal's free.
So many of us come to this as journalists without any of this, so we're learning from the ground up. And you learn as you go along, and so suddenly this is not as bleak as it used to be. But so many times I've found that, I will send a request in, because I use SiteGround, and I'll send a request in and say, my site's crashing and there's only 100 people looking at it, what's going on? And they come back, upgrade. So I've upgraded to, now I'm $85 a month, and it's like, okay, don't tell me that. Then they give me all this jargon that I have, so you need a web developer. And I just ran for 2 years without any of those problems. So I'm guessing from listening to what you're saying, it's going from 40,000 to 150,000. So that's what does it?
Mm-hmm.
So where do we go from here? Once we hit there, what's our best option?
Get a managed option.
Yeah.
Get someone to manage it for you. If you don't have the, if you, that's not where you want. If that's not where you want to get into, hire this guy or hire this guy to manage your site. Yeah,
Let's finish
exactly.
going down
Go
and
ahead.
talk about the cost.
So we, Walsh Creative, we believe in like a personalized experience. Our motto is we help publishers grow. So publishers, I believe, are really good at creating content, whether they sell their own ads or they have an ad salesperson. So I believe that publishers should be focusing on the quality of their content and be outsourcing all of their web development needs to someone like me. So we offer a service that's a monthly retainer to do that. So it starts at $250 a month. What we do, though, is you get a personalized service that can do anything on WordPress. So you can call us on, you can call me on my cell phone at any time, 7 days a week. You could email me personally. You're going to hear back from me personally. We guarantee same-day responses, usually within a half hour. We try to offer 24-hour turnaround time on all requests that are entered, if not done even sooner than that. And if it's a large project, we'll discuss that, hey, this is a 200-hour project. We need to write up a scope of work and discuss this and come up with a way to create it. As far as building a site from scratch, because you asked like what a startup cost would be. So that can range wildly from a couple $100 if you're just using some prefab template and you just need to move some stuff around. We just set up Mirror Mason News in San Diego, and like I was able to help set them up for like $200 because he used a prefab template, and then he went on a maintenance plan where I'm able to help him build it and grow it and get him on Broad Street and do all these different things for him. But then on the flip side, we do sites that cost $10,000 to develop. However, I don't foresee a lot of people at this conference building a $10,000 site from scratch, and I don't think it's necessary. So I hope that answers the question.
Yeah, sure.
So on the issue of cost, Expression Engine does not have any sort of a theming site or library where you can just say where you look through like 20 or 2,000 different templates and go, okay, I'm going to make my site look like this. That's a total advantage of WordPress, and that helps you jump in at WordPress at the like $200 level, like you say. But so I had somebody come to me recently. They wanted to build a site for commuters in a large metropolitan area, and they had some ideas about what sort of content they wanted on their site. So the proposal we put together was, a custom design for your site, plus, setting it up so that it's not just articles, but it's other chunks of data that you're managing. And the project was about $6,000 all put together for building it and training and that sort of thing. That didn't include branding, because branding as a whole, that's a whole other big exercise. It was, but it was like the website design and development of some of that. And then hosting wise, it really sort of varies. I wouldn't recommend anybody using Expression Engine do the $7 plan. Usually like the $15 to $20 plan is about as low as I would let somebody go. And then above that, it just depends on your traffic. To your question about about whether you should just like go to the next level or the next level, when my clients call me or when I have a problem with the client and they've got the service falling over and it's crashing, I usually tell them, the first thing I tell them to do is don't pay me to look into it. Go to the next level plan, because that fix can be done in an hour. If you're at that level of traffic for some reason, then probably even if I fix something or like improve it, you're just gonna hit that level again in 2 months or 3 months. Like, go to the next level plan, but then also investigate efficiencies and ways to fix the problems. You really have to do both. And sometimes my clients are like, well, we don't want to go to a next level plan and then be stuck at a higher level plan. We just want you to dig in and fix the problem. And I'm like, okay, well, I'll do that, but you're going to hit that ceiling over and over again. So go to the next level plan and then get us to make things more efficient. And then you'll be on a higher level plan with an even more efficient site. It'll be super fast. And like I was saying this morning, super fast sites people like, and like your traffic will improve. You probably don't realize how much traffic you're losing because your site is kind of a little slower than it should be. And you're just leaving yourself a runway for growth if you go to a higher level plan. So.
We need to wrap it up.
We can talk after. WordPress, who do you recommend? Which servers, which hosting works better with WordPress? Now, outside of WPN, obviously that would be the one that you would, and you stick with that. That's the best one. Right?
Yeah, I only recommend WP Engine personally. There are other hosts that are good, but that's just who I recommend because they have amazing service, customer service, technical support. I think they're very affordable, they're very fast, and that's just, I can talk to you about other ones, but that's who I recommend.
Actually, there was